Hi, I'm going to talk about how I video and photograph Starling Murmurations. It's an overview of my technique and not a full in-depth account. This is not the only way, or perhaps even the best way, but it is my way. During murmurations, the starlings sometimes may be overhead and sometimes further away. I normally find a 24 to 200mm zoom lens most useful, although I have even used a 600mm lens when they were much further away. So the location will dictate what is the best lens to use. For video, I always use a tripod and normally record in 4K 30 frames a second. But sometimes, especially when the starlings are dropping into the roost, I will use 60 frames per second. Then play it back at 30 frames per second, giving a 2x slow motion effect. Murmurations take place a little before sunset when the light levels are low. But with video at 30 frames per second, the recommended shutter speed will be 1/60th of a second. So I stopped down the lens to f6.3, which still gives a reasonable ISO with little noise. I mostly use manual focus for video murmurations and use the depth of field of the lens at f6.3 to keep the starlings in focus. I do like to record the amazing sound of a murmuration whenever possible. But to get reasonable sound in the UK is very difficult, with traffic noise from nearby roads nearly always a factor. I also try and get sound without people talking or loud camera shutters clicking, but I do not expect other people to be quiet just because I want to record sound. It's up to me to try and find a way around these problems. I use a shotgun microphone to try and limit off-axis sounds and place it as far away from the noise source using a wireless link to the camera similar to a Rode Wireless Go. This does produce better audio, but rarely without some unwanted noise, and I sometimes do resort to having a music track when the audio is not good enough. For photography, I like to show movement, so I often use a slow shutter speed giving motion blur to the starlings. A tripod is therefore necessary to avoid camera shake. I determine the best shutter speed by trial and error, because the nearer the starlings are to you, the faster shutter speed I need to create the amount of blur I am looking for. I therefore take a photo and review it on the back of the camera. I adjust the speed and repeat the process until I am satisfied with the result. I normally start at about 1/50th of a second, but have stopped the shutter down to a 1/4 of a second on a few occasions. However, a 50th to a 20th of a second is more normal. 1/250th of a second or faster will be needed if I want to freeze the starlings in mid-flight. I then use the camera autofocus to lock onto the starlings, which is a slightly different approach to my video focus method. I hope that gives you some idea of how I video and photograph starling murmurations. Thank you.